what's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video, and today we are going to go over the original Sin ring and why it's probably one of the most overpowered rings I've actually ever seen. Now at the beginning when GGG first showed the ring, I wasn't really sure what to make of it because I didn't really know why it was going to be so good, but someone showed me a build with it and it actually makes one of my favorite builds of all time, which is strength stacking Venom Gyre into a complete powerhouse, effectively doubling its damage. And this is already one of the strongest builds in the game. Right now you're seeing what strength stacking Venom Gyre looks like. So it pretty much looks very, very similar to the normal Venom Gyre. Now if we actually look at the PoE Ninja, if you actually look at the highest DPS builds for Venom Gyre, they are all strength stacking Venom Gyre. Now we can't league start this build because it requires using Replica Alberon's Warpath. However, what if I told you all of these builds, and these builds do go up to the hundreds of millions of DPS with everything checked. What if I told you you could double this build's damage or even more than that with just one ring? And that is what Original Sin actually does. So Original Sin is a ring that you get if you complete a Sanctum run with no hit. And it's pretty hard. I think most of the builds that have done it is some sort of cold build. There's been Cold Tornado Shot that's done it. I think Cold Dot has also done it. But basically, you have to complete a Sanctum and you cannot get hit. It is quite a challenge. Now, the current price of the ring is around 1 to 2 mirrors, but I do think that the price should go up because most of the people playing Chaos Venom Gyre are pretty rich. If you look at these people, they have some insane gear mostly, and they have the money to spare. A lot of these people are even using Mage Blood. So 1 to 2 mirrors is not really that much of a price considering you can effectively double the damage of the build. Now, not many people have this ring on PoE Ninja. I don't know if it's because doing a no-hit run is super hard, which I assume it is. Someone also told me that doing the no-hit run requires getting the unique relic, and the unique relic is weighted lower than the other ones, so it's very, very uncommon. And even if you do get the relic, you need a build that can pull it off, and the build entry cost is pretty high. So I do think that this ring will probably be very, very expensive until people find out a way to deterministically do the no-hit runs. So if you actually look at Sanctum on the trade, there's only 11 total that's up. And if we actually do look at PoE Ninja and see who's actually using the ring, there's not really very many people who are actually using it because I don't think people know what actually makes this ring so OP. So you have a lot of Chaos Strength Stackers using it, and then you have these weird builds. I don't really even know what this is. Is this like a cast on crit? It's a it's a ward loop build. Oh, I can see ward loop working out with it. That's pretty cool. So I feel like there's a lot of potential here, and we do have a way to unlock all this potential. Now, in order to understand why this ring is so OP, we have to understand what the strength stacking archetype actually is. So strength stacking archetype is a build that is chaos because of this one pair of boots over here. So if we actually look over here, Replica Alberon's Warpath. And what does Replica Alberon's Warpath do? It gives us 1 to 80 chaos damage to attacks per 80 strength. So this allows us to get an obscene amount of flat added chaos damage. And for a build that has around 2,700 strength, you could get up to 3,000 strength in some cases with perfect gear. You will see that when we look at Vol Venom Gyre, we have a lot of flat chaos damage. And a lot of that does come from the boots because we have so much strength. Now, the synergy from this build is that Battle Mage's Cry benefits from Iron Will. So what Iron Will does is that it is a keystone on the tree that converts all of your strength damage bonus to spell damage. So strength damage bonus applies to spell damage as well. And then we use the chest right here, which is called, I think it's just called Iron Commander, right? Or not Iron Commander, Iron Fortress. So Iron Fortress makes this 3 strength damage bonus, grants 3% increased physical damage per 10 strength. As this also allows us to get even more spell damage, so we're able to get a lot of spell damage from this build. And then the synergy is also because we have Undeniable, which is the Forbidden Jewel from Juggernaut that converts your strength into accuracy. So we gain accuracy rating equal to twice our strength, and then we get attack speed for the accuracy rating. So the strength is pretty much giving us accuracy rating and a bunch of attack speed. And lastly, the helmet mod on Warlord is 1% increased critical strike chance per 10 strength. So strength stacking archetype is probably one of the best synergistic archetypes in the game. You get attack speed, you get crit chance, you get accuracy, and is literally just completely busted at the moment. So right now, if we actually look at the amount of increased damage we get, we can see how much damage we actually get from spell damage. So we get an insane amount of damage, increased damage from spell damage. You pretty much have 3,600% increased elemental damage or increased chaos damage. And this crazy synergy already propels Chaos Venom Gyre or any sort of chaos build with Replica Albrons Warpath into the highest damage archetype in the game. Like currently, if you actually look at PoE Ninja and we sort by the top builds, you will see that there are a lot of these chaos people at the top. Now, I do see that there's a lot of trappers at the top, but those builds are all kind of a meme. So we have to see what this Original Sin actually do. Original Sin allows us to convert all of our elemental damage to chaos damage, and this allows you to stack elemental damage for Replica Albrons Warpath. So if you look at Replica's Albrons Warpath, the main problem with this pair of boots is that we cannot deal non-chaos damage. Now, this is going to be very, very important. We'll figure out why this is so important in a little bit. Now, Original Sin also sets nearby enemies' chaos resistance to 0. So this helps out a lot because chaos penetration is extremely difficult to get in the game. We pretty much only have Despair, we have the Hunter Helmet mod, and then we also have the Veiled prefix on weapon. The Veiled prefix does give us 16% pen. Now, I do think that 16% pen works on this nearby enemy's chaos resistance to 0. And this allows us to get a lot of chaos penetration on this one mod. So both mods are extremely, extremely important. So now, why is it OP? And this is because we can take advantage of the strength stacking implicit on the weapon and Sanctified Relic. Now, before, this extra fire damage would be useless because Replica Albrons Warpath makes it so that we cannot deal non-chaos damage. But the Original Sin Ring converts all of that extra fire damage to chaos damage. So we're pretty much effectively doubling our extra flat chaos damage. So the way we're able to achieve this is that we have the Sanctified Relic, which adds 2 to 3 fire damage per 10 strength. And then you can also get the Synthesized Implicit on the Claw, which adds 2 to 4 fire damage to attacks with this weapon per 10 strength. Now, currently, Original Sin does not really work in PoP correctly, so we'll have to manually write in the line. So right here, you can see 100% of elemental damage converted to chaos damage. And if we delete this line over here, you can see the damage is effectively cut in half. So this one ring is effectively doubling our damage as long as we get the Sanctified Relic. The Sanctified Relic does add a good chunk, but it is a very, very big chunk. But even without the Sanctified Relic, this ring is crazy. If we get a Claw that has this implicit, now this does not even consider the extra chaos penetration you will receive because the enemy's resistance is 0. For a lot of pinnacle bosses, the enemy's resistance is around 30. So having it set at 1 is huge. So if we delete this one line over here and put the resist at 30, we can see the damage is at 98 million, which is a lot. Now, there's something weird when you set it at 0, it doesn't do anything. So I just set it at 1. So if we actually look over here, if we control Z all the way back, you can see it goes from 98 million to 263 million. And that is more than doubling our damage. And once you take into account the extra chaos penetration you get. Now, the main problem here is how are you going to get the Sanctified Relic? It does take a very, very long time to farm for it, but the damage potential for this build is absolutely crazy. And this is only for Venom Gyre's outgoing projectile. It doesn't account for Vol Venom Gyre's shotgunning or any of the blaze that comes out. So this is a potential build that will have a billion plus DPS in terms of shotgunning damage. And it is on-demand damage that is right there as soon as you press Vol Venom Gyre. So right now, I do think that the play of the game, if you really want to min-max the build in the late game, is to play strength stacking Venom Gyre with Original Sin and maybe farm for the Sanctified Relic. And it does add a lot of fire damage that gets converted to chaos damage. Another thing that you could potentially work around if you don't want to play Venom Gyre is you can play some Brutus Lead Sprinkler build. And I do think that strength stacking Archetype with Original Sin and either Brutus Lead Sprinkler or the Implicit mod, I think it's also a Warlord mod on weapons, can lead to one of the most overpowered build archetypes. Now, currently, strength stacking is already one of the most overpowered build archetypes, especially with Replica Albrons Warpath. And I do think that Original Sin effectively doubling the damage. And this is definitely one of the most overpowered build archetype combos that has existed in a while. And what this means is that farming Sanctums for Original Sin attempts might end up being the best money-making method. I currently do have one original sin, and I do think that if you want to try doing it, you should try to make a cold tornado shot build that has very, very high damage. And this turns Strength Stacking Venom Jar into one of the most obscene damage builds in the game. So I do think that once PoE Ninja starts working and that Path of Building can correctly do the damage for Vol Venom Jar, I do think that we will see damage that we pretty much have never seen before for Venom Jar. If you told me that you could get this number to 263 million, I would think that you were crazy or lying last league. But the damage potential is definitely there, and this is the highest that we can potentially push Venom Gyre with this archetype. And I don't think that this is going to be around because Original Sin is not going to be around since Sanctum is not going to go core. But I do know that this build is probably very, very out of reach for most people because, let's face it, not many of us have 1 mirror or whatever, 2 mirrors or 1.5 mirrors to afford this item. But I do think that this is a once-in-a-league build that we could all get to try out. And even if you can't try it out, it's cool to know that this combo exists because I never thought in my wildest dreams I would see that this damage could be pushed this high with this Original Sin combo. But thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know down in the comments below what other cool build ideas you think would be really, really synergistic with Original Sin. I do think that this ring deserves to be 1 mirror as it is effectively doubling our damage for this build, and it's very, very well designed, and it's cool to see that people have the innovation to come up with this stuff. But thanks for watching. I hope you find more mirrors, divines, and original sins than me, and see you next time. Bye.